It was devastating. One word, devastating. And folks out there, wherever else you're looking and you're watching the news or have watched the news, you have an impression, you get an idea of the damage, the extent of the damage and all that, but it was devastating. There's people that it took everything that they had.
I keep saying it's the Great Flood because it certainly is the biggest flood this area has seen in known memory. Our church, in many respects, was very, very lucky. We had a foot of water in the basement, in the entire basement, and that caused, a lot of mess and mud and water, and it was inconvenient. But compared to other people who've just had their entire houses inundated, we were very lucky.
What I have seen has broken my heart, and what I have heard has made me so sad just to hear when you ask them, how did you fare through all of the storm? And they begin to tell you, but they don't just tell you about themselves, because if they're standing there working and doing things, they probably haven't been affected as badly as some of their friends have been.
Water is just such a massive destructive force, and it leaves behind such a residue of silt and mold and garbage to make such a massive cleanup.
So the fact that we know people are hurting down here has affected the Presbytery on a lot of levels. And this area, even if we have a lot of people that grew up in the mountains or have connections to the affected areas that have moved out to Lexington and other parts of the Presbytery. So we have really this heartbreak that is happening across the Presbytery for the things that are happening in Eastern Kentucky.
I realize that I am part of a large church with lots of resources, and most of my colleagues here in Eastern Kentucky are not in very large churches with lots of resources, and so being able to come down and make a small impact and be here for my colleagues to let them know that we care about them and we will not leave them, even if the immediate attention leaves, felt important to me today. This is the manse of the church here in Buckhorn, Kentucky, the Presbyterian Church, which is a cornerstone of this community. And this is the manse, and it was flooded. Gail, one of the pastors here, was telling me that they had 5 or more feet of water in their basement last week with the floods. So we've been spending the morning putting things in the U-Haul to take to storage for Gail and Tom, the pastors here, until they're able to move into a new home.
I mean, in the mountains, there's no such thing as a big town. There are areas where there is no community center. There's nothing. And those folks are not getting resources.
Because part of the challenge that we found, and you've seen it on the news, where they're having to airdrop supplies to places that aren't accessible because of the bridges that are washed out and the driveways that are washed out. So really just trying to figure out how things are, who's impacted is difficult right now.
It's a neighbor helping a neighbor and helping each other any way they can. That's always been the way it's been. The way I was raised is if I've got it, it's my responsibility to share it with somebody else.
PDA will be here for the future to help with the rebuild, to help house volunteers, and to try and bring in some of that hope to these communities that they can survive.
This is going to be long-term, that we don't need a handout, we need a hand up. We are proud people who are very rich, and if you come in person, you will meet some of the most wonderful people you've ever met in your life. But we do need help.
God is working something new. Even with all this devastation or whatever, you can look at the scriptures and find stories like this throughout the centuries. This is just replaying that same story. And then it's up to us to react, come together as a people and to move forward. So God never said things would be easy, but He promised us that He would never leave us.